In November 2025, a major scientific announcement shocked the world. It concerned a subject many believed was impossible to study. For the very first time, an international team of scientists had successfully studied the DNA of Adolf Hitler. This news instantly sparked a lot of discussion among experts and the general public. Hitler was one of the most infamous people in history. He died nearly 80 years ago in his Berlin bunker. For a long time, understanding his personal biology seemed out of reach. But now, advanced science has uncovered new secrets from his past. The key to this study was a small piece of blood-stained fabric. This fabric was taken from the sofa inside Hitler's bunker, where he ended his life in 1945. A U.S. Army officer, Colonel Roswell P. Rosengren, carefully cut a piece of this cloth. Over the years, this unique historical item found its way to a museum in America. In 2025, it became the focus of a groundbreaking scientific project. A team of geneticists and historians worked for more than 4 years. Their goal was to get usable DNA from the very old and delicate blood sample. It was a huge technical challenge to get clean DNA from the fabric, but through careful work they managed to do it. To make sure the blood was truly Hitler's, they matched its DNA with that of a known relative. This proved the sample was authentic. This scientific discovery opens an important new window into history. It provides information about Hitler's physical and perhaps even his mental makeup. However, it also raises many difficult questions. People are now asking if science can truly explain the origins of human evil. Can a person's genes tell us why they commit terrible acts? This research forces us to think deeply about what shapes a person and their actions. It reminds us that understanding history is a complex task. This study marks a new moment in how we can use science to look at the past. 2. A piece of the past. The small piece of blood-stained fabric had an amazing journey through history. In 1945, as the Second World War was ending in Europe, a United States soldier entered Adolf Hitler's bunker in Berlin. This soldier was Colonel Roswell P. Rosengren, an officer working for General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Hitler had just died, and Colonel Rosengren saw a blood-stained sofa inside the bunker. He understood the historical importance of the moment. He carefully cut a small piece of the fabric from the sofa, taking it as a unique historical artifact. This small, frayed piece of cloth became a family heirloom. It stayed with Colonel Rosengren's family for many decades, held privately as a powerful, silent witness to a dark time. Then, in 2014, the family decided it was time for the artifact to be shared more widely. They put it up for auction, and the Gettysburg Museum of History in Pennsylvania bought it. This museum, located in America, proudly added the fabric to its collection. For several years, it remained an important but unexamined relic from the past, its full potential for discovery unknown. Later, a groundbreaking scientific project began to study this very fabric. Professor Turi King, a renowned geneticist, led an international team of experts. Their big goal was to get clean DNA from the old bloodstain on the cloth. This was a very challenging task. The fabric was nearly 80 years old, and any blood sample would be tiny, degraded, and likely contaminated. The scientists worked carefully for more than 4 years, using the newest technology to overcome these difficult technical problems and extract viable DNA. Finally, they had a DNA sample. But a crucial step remained, proving the blood truly belonged to Hitler. To ensure authenticity, the team performed a careful comparison. They obtained a DNA sample from a known living relative of Adolf Hitler. Then they compared the DNA extracted from the fabric with the relative's DNA. The genetic patterns matched perfectly. This critical scientific step proved beyond all doubt that the blood on the historic fabric was indeed from Adolf Hitler. This strong confirmation opened the door for all the incredible discoveries that would follow. 3. A hidden illness. The detailed study of Adolf Hitler's DNA brought surprising news about his health. Scientists found strong signs of a rare medical condition. It is called Kallmann syndrome. This illness affects how a person's body grows and develops. Kallmann syndrome prevents the body from making enough hormones that are needed for puberty. For men, this means they often have low levels of testosterone. Their reproductive organs may not develop completely, and they might have difficulty having children. Another common sign of Kallmann syndrome is a reduced sense of smell. The genetic tests showed Hitler had a change in his PROK2 gene. This specific change is linked to Kallmann syndrome, meaning it was very likely he suffered from this condition. This finding gives new understanding to parts of his personal life that historians could not explain before. For instance, a medical report from 1923 showed Hitler had an undescended testicle. This physical issue is consistent with Kallmann syndrome. During World War I, some soldiers who knew Hitler even made fun of his anatomy. These old rumors, once thought to be just propaganda, now gain more possible truth from the DNA evidence. Historians have long noted Hitler's strange avoidance of romantic relationships and intimacy throughout his life. Unlike many other high-ranking Nazis who had families and love affairs, Hitler seemed to live a very isolated personal life. Experts like Alex Kay, a historian, now suggest that Kallmann syndrome could be the missing piece to understanding his difficulties with women and intimate connections. This raises big questions. Could a private medical issue have shaped such a public figure and, in turn, world history? Some wonder if his isolation, possibly caused by this condition, contributed to his extreme worldview. However, scientists are very careful about making direct links. Professor Sir Simon Baron-Cohen noted that a person's behavior is never fully determined by genes. He stressed the danger of connecting Hitler's cruelty directly to Kallmann syndrome. This is because it could unfairly stigmatize the many people who live with this condition today, who are mostly kind and peaceful. 4. A different brain. Scientists found more interesting things in Hitler's DNA. This new information suggested links to certain brain conditions. The DNA showed a very high chance for genetic markers connected to autism. It also showed markers for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. This means his genetic profile placed him in a group with a strong possibility for these three conditions. However, the scientists quickly made a very important point clear. Having genetic markers for a condition is not the same as actually having the condition. DNA alone cannot give a full diagnosis. We cannot truly know if Hitler had autism, schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder. Dr. Alex Sampanidis, an autism researcher, explained this carefully. He said that while Hitler's biology might have played a role, it is impossible to make a clinical diagnosis from the DNA. He added that you must look at a person's behavior as well, not just their genes. This discovery brings a serious warning. It is very dangerous to link these brain conditions to evil actions or cruel behavior. Millions of people around the world live with autism, schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder every day. The vast majority of these individuals are not violent, cruel, or bad. Many are very creative, empathetic, and useful members of society. If we connect Hitler's terrible crimes to these conditions, it could create unfair and negative ideas about all people who have them. This is called stigma, and it can cause great harm to individuals and families. Mental health advocates are very worried about this. They do not want Hitler's DNA findings to be used to hurt or judge people who live with these conditions today. Professor Sir Simon Baron-Cohen, a well-known psychologist, strongly warned against making such connections. He explained that human behavior is never 100% caused by genes. Many things influence how a person acts. He stressed that associating Hitler's extreme cruelty with people who have these diagnoses risks making them feel bad and creating wrong ideas. These conditions are complex, and people who have them deserve understanding and support, not blame. Professor Baron-Cohen made it very clear that you cannot see evil in a genome. This means that badness is not found in a person's DNA. It is vital to remember this lesson from the science, so we do not spread harm or judgment about groups of innocent people. 5. A family secret is not true. For many decades, a persistent rumor surrounded Adolf Hitler. This widespread story claimed that Hitler might have had Jewish family members, a belief that gained new attention as recently as 2022. Russia's foreign minister Sergei Lavrov mentioned this theory, showing how deeply rooted this historical idea had become. The rumor had very old beginnings, dating back to the 1930s. During that time, Austria's anti-Nazi leader publicly challenged German officials to prove Hitler did not have Jewish roots. The speculation often focused on Hitler's father, Alois. Some people strongly believed that Alois was born outside of marriage. They thought his biological father might have been a Jewish man named Frankenberger, and his mother a German maid, Maria Schicklgruber. If this story were accurate, it would mean that Hitler himself carried Jewish heritage. This idea created much discussion and argument. Earlier DNA studies, done in 2010 on some of Hitler's relatives, seemed to suggest the presence of certain genetic markers. These markers were sometimes linked to Jewish ancestry. These findings helped to keep the old rumor and many conspiracy theories alive for several more decades, making the question even harder to answer with certainty. But now, cutting-edge science has finally provided a clear and definitive answer. Scientists used Hitler's own DNA, carefully taken from a small blood-stained piece of cloth. After a very thorough study, the results were unmistakable. There was absolutely no sign of Jewish ancestry found in his DNA. His genetic family background was shown to be purely Austrian-German. This new scientific analysis conclusively put an end to one of history's most persistent conspiracy theories. It definitively showed that the widely believed family secret was not true, confirming his genetic makeup as entirely consistent with Central European heritage. 6. What genes do not explain. Chapter 6 looks at what this new science cannot fully explain. DNA helps us understand our health and physical traits. It can show if someone has a higher chance of certain medical conditions. But it cannot tell us everything about a person. For example, DNA cannot explain a person's beliefs, their political ideas, or their moral choices. You cannot find evil in someone's genes, as psychologist Simon Baron-Cohen clearly stated. Hitler's genes do not explain his terrible actions or his capacity for mass murder. His DNA might give some clues about his health or how his mind possibly worked. However, it does not explain his hateful ideas or his deep-seated desire for power. It does not explain his willingness to cause so much death and suffering on a huge scale. Scientists involved in the study were very careful about these limits. They stressed that having certain gene markers does not mean someone will act in a violent or cruel way. Millions of people around the world have similar gene markers to those found in Hitler's DNA, but they are not violent or cruel. Most are normal, good people. There is a strange and sad irony in this discovery. Hitler based many of his terrible ideas on the belief in pure genes and racial superiority. He thought some people were genetically better and others were unworthy of life. Yet, if he had seen his own genetic results, he would likely judge himself as unworthy by his own harsh standards. Professor Turi King, one of the main scientists, pointed out this powerful truth. She said that if Hitler had known about his own DNA, he might have even sent himself to the gas chambers. This research also brings up important ethical questions for science and history. Scientists studied Hitler's DNA without his permission, as he is long deceased. This leads to a big debate. Is it right to study the genes of someone who has died, especially if they were a very bad person? Professor King thought deeply about these moral issues before starting the project. She decided that the study was important, but insisted it be done with extreme care and scientific accuracy. But where do we draw the line for future studies? If it is acceptable to study the genes of historical villains, what about other historical figures? What about people whose actions were not so clearly good or bad? These questions are complex. The project sets a new example for how DNA can be used in history. But it also makes us think about privacy and the possible misuse of such powerful information. Scientists must always think about these concerns. 7. Telling the world. The world learned about the new DNA findings in mid-November 2025. A big TV show, Hitler's DNA, Blueprint of a Dictator, showed the results. It was on Channel 4 on Saturday, November 15. This program shared the many discoveries about Adolf Hitler's DNA. It explained his possible medical conditions and cleared up old stories about his family. Many experts spoke in the documentary to give a balanced view. Genetic scientists, historians, and mental health professionals shared their thoughts. They discussed what the DNA meant and what it did not mean. They wanted to make sure viewers understood the findings carefully. The show aimed for an honest and full picture of this sensitive information. It is important to know that these findings have not yet been published in a scientific journal. Scientists usually send their research to a journal first. Then other experts in the same field check the work. This important step is called peer review. It helps make sure the methods are correct, the evidence is strong, and the claims are true. Professor Turi King, who led the research, said they have sent the work to a high-profile journal. She hopes it will be published very soon. This process is key for science to be trusted. This project is a new way to study history. Using DNA from old things, like the blood sample from Hitler's sofa, helps us learn in different ways. It shows that science can open windows to the past that were once closed. For example, it helps us understand possible medical issues of historical figures. This new method could change how we look at history and famous people from long ago. It helps us understand parts of their lives we could not before, offering new kinds of historical evidence. This expanded approach helps challenge old myths with real scientific data. 8. A new look at history. The study of Adolf Hitler's DNA gave the world many new facts. Scientists discovered signs of Kalman syndrome, a rare medical condition. They also found genetic markers linked to conditions like autism, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorder. Importantly, the DNA proved that old stories about Hitler having Jewish family members were not true. This scientific work helps us gain new insights into Hitler's physical body and possibly even his mental processes.
However, this new biological information does not change the undeniable truth of his terrible actions. Hitler was responsible for cruel crimes, including the Holocaust, where millions of innocent people were murdered. His deliberate choices led to immense suffering. Science provides facts about a person's health, but it cannot fully explain or excuse the morally bankrupt decisions they made. The DNA analysis is a powerful tool for historical study, but it does not provide all the answers about human behavior. It reveals parts of a person's biological makeup. Yet, it cannot show evil in a genetic code or fully explain why someone chooses to spread hate or commit atrocities. History is much more than a story of genes or illnesses. It is a narrative shaped by people and their personal choices. Every individual makes decisions that can change the world. It is important to remember that many good people live healthy lives with conditions like Kalman syndrome, autism, or bipolar disorder. Their health conditions do not make them evil or violent. In a strange way, if Hitler had seen his own DNA results, his own hateful ideas about genetic purity would have made him a target of his own regime. This highlights how profoundly wrong his racist ideas truly were. So, while this research gives us new details about Hitler, it strongly reminds us of something very fundamental. Human beings, through their free will and actions, are the true shapers of history. Our biology can be one small part of our story, but it does not dictate our destiny or determine our character. We must always recognize the immense power of human choice, whether it leads to good or to unimaginable evil. This research helps us look at history with fresh eyes. Do you think it was right for scientists to study Hitler's DNA, or should some secrets be left in the past?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.